What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the In-situ Collective's 200th episode. Yes, number 200. Big thanks to everybody that has been supporting the show. And before we get into our interview with the founder of Mellows, Sam, I just want to thank every single one of you for your love and support over the last 200 plus shows. I did go back and delete a fair few there a while ago. No need to go back and find those and try and have a listen, because I reckon the last 100 shows, maybe 50 shows, is where we've really started to gain some traction from you guys, and we wouldn't be here without you. Okay, so everybody listening, supporting, giving us your questions each month as well, giving your opinion on all the topics is what we love, and that's why we do this show. If you want to continue seeing us do that and give us a little bit of extra love on the side, make sure you become a supporter of the show. Hit the link in the show notes, become a supporter, and you can literally just give us whatever you think this show is worth, whether it is $3 or $3,000.
The latter would be better.
It just comes out monthly. So again, we appreciate everybody that's already done that, and we appreciate every single one of you that have done that.
I thought I'd just do this while we've got everyone here, so here we go.
All three.
Perfect. Yeah. Cheers on that.
Sam, thanks for coming on the show.
No worries at all. Thanks for having me.
Very excited to have you here. For the last couple of months, we've been drinking these Mellow cans.
So honestly, I saw it online and I was like, we're on a podcast? What's this all about? I said to because my wife and I, we work together, and I was like, man, reach out. We need to get in front of what's going on here. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of people reach out and say, what are those cans you're drinking? And all I can say, they're just delicious and they help calm me. So I'm excited to have you on.
Awesome.
Do you want to dive into maybe like go back a few years before you even come up with the can?
Yeah.
Why Mellow?
I'll go back to even my childhood, because there was a lot that led up to my experience, which then as a result got me to a point to create the product Mellows in the first place. So like my upbringing was great. Like I didn't come from a rough home or had a bad upbringing. Like my mum and dad were together. We were very, very fortunate growing up as well, because my old man was into the property game and he did very, very well through that. So my upbringing was great. Like every school holidays, we're flying overseas for trips, and we're taking our best mates with us, and everyone gets $1,000 to spend and whatever. Like there wasn't any limits on that. So like I didn't know much different. I thought, like I felt different in the community that I lived in, because we were sort of noticed as like being the wealthy or the rich family. But again, I was grateful for the school I went to, because all my mates are such great, authentic people. And I didn't feel like I was any different because of that. And I sort of didn't really understand that from a young age. So very, very fortunate. Like the lifestyle was crazy. And it got to a point where I was watching my old man build this hotel and do these amazing things. And I was like, okay, well, when I get older, that's what I'm going to do. Just follow my old man's footsteps. He came from nothing, a really, really great provider. It got to the point where like he had, a 75-foot launch in Auckland City with a skipper and a chef, and he had these Bentleys and Ferraris and all sorts of stuff going on. It was like all there. So I was like, wow, like not to say the materialistic things, I like nice things, but it wasn't that. It was more so like, there's no limits in terms of what can be achieved in this world. And that's really what gave me my entrepreneurial spirit or business spirit or whatever you want to call it, because I just knew there was no limits to that. But then it got to 2007, 2008. And when the financial crisis hit, he lost everything, absolutely everything. So, the family home, the whole lot. And he owed $30 million to the banks at that time as well. So it wasn't like a credit card of $3,000 or whatever. It's like $30 million. Like he had to go through this big ordeal with them. It's all sorted out now, but it was mental. So for me, like unpacking how I got to the point of having my experience with anxiety, it was only sort of recently in the last couple of days, I thought, you know what, I haven't shared this part of my story, the younger years of my story. I've only gone on from the point of when it all happened for me, which was much later in my life. So basically growing up, I remember, 11, 12, 13, I remember if I was to get a cold or get sick, I would always, be taken to the doctors to get checked out. But I started fearing going to the doctors because I didn't want them to say that something was wrong with me. And that's as far back as I remember having these uncomfortable feelings, even though it didn't define my day and run my life, anxiety at that point because I was so young. I just remember hating going to the doctors for like saying they might have something wrong with me when, I was perfectly fine. And then when I got to high school, my mum got diagnosed with breast cancer. And to get that told to you when you're sort of 16, 17, like completely destroyed my world. Like I love it dearly, love it a bits. And to have that told to you, like, your mum could pass away at that age, it was horrible. I cried for like days on end. It was just the next level. But she's with us, like she's all good, super healthy. So that's all like, she's here and that's good. But to go through that then stirred up that worry about getting sick again. It stirred up my body. And I got to another point where I actually believed that there was something wrong with me. Like I had cancer, there was something wrong with me as well. So I even took myself to the city to go and get checked up as well to make sure that I didn't have anything wrong with me. And it's so weird to say, but it's like, I don't know if I should say this, it might be a bit censored if I should go into it, but literally, like I remember I had like a cyst, and I was like, shit, is this good or is it bad? It could be cancerous. I need to go and get this checked out. And the cyst was on my balls. So I thought I had nut cancer basically. And I went to the city to go and get checked out for that as well, being 17 years old. And growing up, like in my area, you're watching Jackass, people punching each other in the nuts all day, throwing balls at each other, whatever, right? And I was like, yeah, I think I've got something wrong with me. So then I go to town, get my balls checked out by a lady who's like 65, 70. It's a great Saturday morning to spend your Saturday morning as a 16, 17-year-old. Then all my mates find out about it and give me so much shit about it. But it's like, on and beyond the humorous side of that, I'm like, how can you like almost believe that you've got something wrong with you to that extent? Like, how can you actually believe that that's real? It's like me saying to you guys now, hey, you've got a brain tumor, you've got, stomach cancer or whatever else. But for you to sit there, you're like, oh yeah, whatever, like I'm nothing, it doesn't bother you. But then when you have these early signs of anxiety, you start thinking about it more and more. It just dwells on your mind to the point where I remember when I thought I had, testicle cancer and I checked everything out, and my heart was beating through my chest and I'm by myself at home freaking out. And it's just like, you're 17 years old, man, go and explore the world, get out and explore it. So then again, even at that point, after I got checked out, they said, you're fine, no worries at all. It just came and left. So it was within about a week period and then it left. And then everything was sweet for like another good 8 years from that. I'm always someone that gets up early in the morning, loves being around people, loves having a laugh, I like to be busy. So I was never someone that would sort of, not want to get up early in the morning and, not have many friends or anything like that. I was very quite social. So for that next 8 to 10 year period, my wife and I, we met very early on and we were just hanging out and we're best mates and we were just enjoying life. And it wasn't until I got to the age of 26 when we moved to Sydney from Auckland, so I'm a Kiwi. So we moved to Sydney and we ended up setting our life up there. I got into like more of a corporate role. So again, watching my dad build his property portfolio and did what he did, I was like, I'm a property guy, that's what I'm going to do. So pretty much from high school, I went and worked for him. And then I went off on my own and did my own stuff. So we moved to Sydney. I then get my first like corporate role and we rolled in there and I bought a nice blue suit from Saba. I purchased a Hyundai. I had like $400 and I thought I was killing it, like driving around Sydney, just like we've made it. And I got this role and I started working in South Sydney, selling and leasing out commercial real estate. And it was just amazing to me. I was like, great, income security, everything else, this is amazing. But then after about a year of being in the role, my wife and I would find ourselves, because we lived in Coogee at the time, so we would like go to work together and then we'd catch up after work and drive back home together. And we found some days we were literally hopping in the car and we're like, man, we need some greenery. We need to just get out of town. It's just too much. So we'd like literally drive for 45 minutes, all the way up to Newport, like Northern Beaches in Newport, just to get to like a beach that's nice and quiet and have a swim and just relax. So even at that point, it's like where I'm from, it's beautiful and green, really calm, really relaxing. It's like I feel like in any forms of pressure, you sort of go back to what you know is good for you. And we all do it naturally, whether we think it or not, you know what I mean? It always happens. So we started doing more of that. And then about a year into the role, I remember literally like waking up and almost turning into like an animal, like biting in the air, waking myself up, bit my tongue once, grinding my teeth at night, just random shit as well. Like my wife's like, whoa, man, like what's going on? It's like, because I was so busy. It was like almost a dog. I was like, I was so busy and just into what I was doing. My mind just kept going and going and going, even in my sleep. And I remember going to like an organic shop there and being like, hey, do you have any natural remedies to calm me down? And they just give you their trusty like magnesium. It was pretty much just the magnesium. They gave me some kava tablets as well, but it didn't do too much. So then at that point, I was like, look, you know, we loved like going out to cafes together in the morning. You know, we love that sort of coffee culture. You know, we were right into that. And I was like, you know what? I think I'll hang the boots up at Collier's International, and I'll go off and let's start a cafe and let's get that set up. And then I can do my own consultancy work on the side as well on property. So we did that. I remember for the last couple of months of working for Collier's, we managed to negotiate a lease for a space down in Freshwater, which is in the Northern Beaches as well. It was like a big video shop. We took a little part of that. We put a wall up and we negotiated this lease and got into that. But I'm literally at like All Press in Zetland, where all the guys in the office go and have their morning meetings in all their suits. And I'm like hiding out the back, learning how to steam milk and pour latte out. And I have to get changed in my suit and not let them know what's going on to go and meet everyone for a meeting after. It was crazy. But yeah, and then we started the cafe, and that was just amazing. Like such a flip from what I was doing before. I felt I could be expressive, I could create this community and everything else like that. And all that pressure just came off me from the whole being a property guy and doing these deals and stuff like that. So we started the cafe, everything was great there. I started doing my own consultancy work on the side as well. And then we decided to throw a baby into the mix as well, have our first daughter there. And it was great. Like becoming a dad was just like surreal. I can't even explain the feelings that you go through and things that you experience with that. I remember the first night having, my daughter's called Bali, so having Bali in the room, I was like, wow, I've got like a living being that I'm responsible for now. It like sort of set in, and I was just completely in love with her, like fully in awe with her as well. And like, I remember like having her in the front pack, and when I was walking around with her, it was like nothing else, nothing mattered. Like making money didn't matter, businesses didn't matter, like nothing mattered at all in my life. It was like being with this baby. But what I didn't know subconsciously was it started stirring up things from my childhood, becoming a new father. So things like the lifestyle that I was provided growing up, subconsciously, I put all this pressure on myself to provide the same level of lifestyle. So when I'm thinking about, making money or building businesses, I'm like, well, we need to be, at this level with a, nice, beautiful house, need to have some nice cars, need to provide the lifestyle, travel whenever we want. But I started stacking up more and more responsibility on myself at that point in time. So not only being a provider from a father's point of view, but then not being my dad, he was around, but he wasn't around all the time because he was from that era of, go to work early, come back late. Even though it was on the same property, we didn't see him much throughout the day. And it's always business talk, right? Which was fine. It was all good. We'd see him on the weekend and that was sort of it. But I was like, I don't want to be like that. So like, I wanted to be there more for my children on a day-to-day basis because I know that creates more value for them when they get older, makes them feel more secure. So I was having this imbalance of like being with them all the day, wanting to then build these businesses. So I'm like split like this, trying to manage everything. And it just created a bit more pressure for me. And on top of that, probably having 5 or 6 coffees a day, making sure the coffee is like insanely good, like opening up the cafe. We were open at 5:30 in the morning. Would get there at 4:30 to dial on the machines and make sure the music's on, the blankets are out, the heaters are on, everything's perfectly done. So it was like that perfectionism side of me, because I like to curate things and create these experiences for people to enjoy themselves. So I was like, okay, we'll get that done. And then it wasn't until one day I remember going home. At the time, we're living in like this old 70s walk-up complex in Narrabeen, and it was on the beach side. It was pretty close to the beach, and I went back there to get some supplies for the cafe, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go and grab my surfboard and just jump in and out for a quick surf. Moved paddling out, and at the time, my wife and Bali were both at the apartment, and I was out surfing, and I was like, I thought I heard sirens, and I was like, far out. Is there a fire happening or something like that at the apartment? I was like, I should have better go and check it out. So I almost was playing tricks on myself again, saying there must be a fire in there. I hope my family's all right. So I paddled in quickly to go and find out what was going on. And as soon as I walked up the bank, up the sand, and got close to where the apartment was, my heart just like started beating out of my chest, crazy, like never experienced before in my life. And it was to the point where I dead set thought I was having some sort of heart attack or some sort of heart condition was coming up. So I freaked out, went and had a chat to my wife, and she's like, look, just calm down, like just relax. She's like, you're 27, you know, you're fit and healthy, you're probably just stacking a bit too much up on yourself. It's probably a bit of anxiety or something, just relax. So I then sit down and take like 45 minutes to try to calm myself down. It was horrible because when you're feeling like, if you've ever experienced a panic attack, it's just, it comes in waves and you can't control it. And that's the scariest thing. When you're experiencing something and you can't control it, it's very normal for the human mind to just go to fear straight away. I was just like, shit, what's going on? I don't want to die. Like, I'm too young. And it then passed within 45 minutes. It passed. But it was so severe, I was just shaken up. Couldn't go back to work. I then was up all night researching who to go and find out to make sure I wasn't having a heart attack. So the next day I went and saw a doctor. He checks me up, like hooks me up on an ECG machine, lays me down, and he's like, sweet, you're all good. I thought he was going to say, you know, you've got some valve problem or, you know, something's happened. He's like, no, you're sweet. I was like, what do you mean I'm sweet? Like, oh, bullshit, I can't be sweet. Like, what happened to me? And he's like, you just had a panic attack. And I just didn't want to believe it. I was like, why would I, at 27, enjoying life, great relationship with my wife, had my first child, just in awe of being a new dad, great businesses, everything's great. It's like, why would I have a panic attack? And he's like, well, you know, you have to go and sort it out. And I said, well, what are my options? And he goes, well, here's some antidepressants. You can have those. And he's just wanted to do antidepressant work. I was like, oh, all good. No, I'll give that a miss. And then he's like, well, you can go and see a psychologist. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, thanks for that, but I'll just get out now. And I left and I was like, out. And I just thought to myself, like, even though I know people that have been on antidepressants have gotten through amazing things with the right plan and the right stepping stone, I know that when you have something that turns off your feelings altogether, if you can't feel, you can't heal. And it's just the old saying. And that's what the antidepressants do. And unfortunately, a lot of the doctors and a lot of people in the medical industry they just give them out like lollies, you know what I mean? And a lot of these people just need a bit more guidance, you know, a bit more understanding to why they feel the way they feel. And it can have really bad effects on a lot of people. It's horrible to see. So I left there and I was like, sweet, you know, no worries, I'll move on. So then I make an appointment to go and see a psychologist, right? I walk up to this like dingy old 2-level, you know, shop front in DY. I turn up and there's this old dude, he's in his late 60s with his like flip pad. I remember it was like a bit of a Dr. Phil haircut, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm making that up, but you know, he had his flipboard, right? He's sitting down, he's like, come have a seat. Not much eye contact, no love, no nothing else. So I'm sitting there, and being 27, you sort of question, like, why should I go and see a psychologist? Like, am I going a bit insane? Like, it's a bit of a touchy subject, but now it's kind of cool because a lot more people now are doing more therapies and stuff like that, which I think is amazing. With the right people, the best thing in the world. But I just had the wrong person at the wrong time. So I walk up there, sit down, and he literally asked me like 4 questions, right? The first question was, have you been addicted to drugs and alcohol before? And he hasn't even met me before. And I was like, nah, all good in that respect. I'm not a drug addict, it's all good. And he goes, what's your relationship like with your family, like growing up? Tell me more about that. And I said, had a loving parents, you know, they're not together now, but loving parents, great upbringing. And then he goes, have you thought about committing suicide before? And I'm just sitting there like 3 questions in going, sweet man, great. This is great. So this makes me feel so good, man. Can you ask me more questions like this? Because I just love hearing this shit out. Just like, on? Like, what are you smoking, bro? Like, this is just a horrible way to approach someone that's full of anxiety, number one. And then number two, when you have anxiety, you're so impressionable as well. So if someone says, oh, have you had suicidal thoughts? You can then make yourself think, oh yeah, I might be depressed, or maybe I am suicidal. Like, just bullshit stuff starts coming up in your mind. And being a like professional psychologist, it's like, wouldn't you understand how this stuff works? And then that's when I got to the point where I was like, okay, there's no hope. In the general professional market, there's no hope. I've got to go and find another cure. So I went on this mad hunt for like finding ways, treatments, supplements to take to help with these panic attacks. Because from the day of me having that panic attack on that day after the surf, I was then having repeat panic attacks every single day.
Wow.
In the afternoon, it always lasted for 45 minutes every single day. And you wouldn't even know it. I would turn up to the cafe with a smile on my face. I'd meet people in my property consultancy business, smile on my face, but it's like I'm crumbling inside. And it just makes me pissed off to know that there's so many people out there at the moment that think they have to hold this facade up and then just go and suffer in silence. And like that angers me. And that's why now I'm like, nah, Mellows, we create a community. You know, we're launching the Mind Wellness Club. We want to open up the conversation around this, you know, not from a point of being like, poor me, and being in victim mindset, but being like, nah, we're connecting to create more power to move forward. And this shit's normal. It's all normal. It's not made believe stuff, you know, it's not stuff you can't fix. You don't, you know, like there's so much more to it. So I then basically just walked out of the psychology place and I was like, thanks, but no thanks. And just walked out and started on my mission. So I then got referred to a guy that did like, he was like a muscle specialist for muscle to nervous system connections and stuff like that. I didn't know quite sure what it was, but I went online, I got referred to it. Beautiful, amazing setup right in Sydney CBD, real flash office. So we were driving in there for my first consultation and I'm like having a panic attack when I'm almost driving into Sydney because it's so busy and it's so hectic. I got a car park, went upstairs, and it was a beautiful treatment office, like frontage and stuff, and they greeted me through. And then he comes out and he's like, nice to meet you. We're going to go in now. Just whip your shirt off, lay down, face down. I'll work on your back and stuff like that. Well, sweet. Okay, a bit of a massage or adjustment, whatever it is. So I walk into the room, the door's open, and dead set, there were 8 beds lined up, right? 7 people on either side, 7 other people there laying down, no shirts on, and then I had to lay in. It was like a group orgy sort of massage sort of thing, right? And I was like, this is so weird. But it's like when you're already so invested, it's like you're 2 steps too far, you can't walk back. Maybe now I'll just go, no, this is a bit weird, I'm out of here. But back then I was like, I'm too committed, this is just random. So I lay down, they then put this classical music on and he was like dancing around the room like a drunk belly dancer, touching everyone's backs and doing some sort of adjustments. And I just was, if you saw my face, it was just like this. I was like, what is going on here? And it cost me like $350 for the session. So I just got absolutely rorted again. And I'm like, is this just like a money-making scheme? Like, I think there was so-called anxiety. Let's just make as much money as we can and just do some sort of bullshit treatments and stuff like that. I was like, this is horrible. So I sat down, got abused for like an hour, got up, left there and went back home and just felt like I got violated and then just try to get back on the scheme of finding out more treatments that would work. And then like a whole year and a half went by and I was managing every day these panic attacks. It got to some point where I got ringing ears for like 3 months. So laid out and ears would just ring and I'm like, oh, this is sweet. It's like, you know, I'd been in the war or something, but I hadn't, you know. All sorts of crazy stuff happened, but I just kept managing it, you know. My wife was absolutely amazing, like supported me so well through it. She was doing like affirmation things to read when I was at work and like it almost gets me emotional talking about that, but amazing how she stood by my side through the whole thing. And it wasn't until I was on a trip over in NZ and I met a pharmacist over there and we got chatting about anxiety and things like that. So I was asking him like, do you have anything natural that I could supplement that's going to make me feel calm and relaxed? And then he said, oh, have you heard of L-theanine before? And I was like, what's L-theanine? And he goes, basically, it's a natural occurring amino acid found in green tea. It's if you buy the natural fermented L-theanine, they soak green tea at 74 degrees and they extract the amino acid L-theanine out of it. And when they extract it out of it, it comes in like a white powder format, but there's no caffeine in it either. So it's caffeine free. And he said, when you ingest it, It's scientifically proven to cross the blood-brain barrier within 30 minutes flat, and it releases good feel hormones like serotonin and dopamine, but it also increases alpha brain waves in the body. So he said, it's like when you wake up for the first 30 minutes, you're in an alpha brainwave state. That's why they say it's really important to set your mornings up, because literally you have influence on your nervous system, right? Subconscious nervous system, you have a lot of influence on that. And he said, then your brain waves go on to faster pace throughout the day, and then come back down at the end of the day just to regulate yourself through what you're doing in the day. It's just all natural stuff. And I said, well, you know, it sounds a bit pharmaceutical, L-theanine. And he's like, no, it's all natural. You buy the right thing, it's all natural. So I said, sweet, I'll have whatever, you know, let's buy some of that. I bought a little container of it, the pure powder. And he said, I'll dose you up some now, then have it morning and night. And I remember having it. I hopped in the car, and at the time I got 2 girls now, so my other girl in the car, my other daughter, and we're cruising back to where we were staying for my wife. And then dead set, within like 40 minutes flat, I had this like full wave, this sense of calm come over my body. And I was like, I said to my wife, I said, I don't know what the heck this whole L-theanine stuff is all about, but I actually feel calm for the first time in like a year and a half. So I did get like a panic attack that day, but it wasn't as severe because I felt the sense of calm before. It was like teaching my mind to say, hey, you actually do have control over your body. Even though you believe you don't, you actually do. So he said, if you dose this enough morning and night for a period of time, you will then give yourself the space to be able to show your body, hey, you can control these feelings. Because when you have anxiety, it's really easy to identify with it. You know, well, I've got anxiety. You know, even though the label anxiety is like, it's a bit made up from the medical industry to medicate people, you've got anxiety, you know, it's like giving people labels. It's like, no, when you start understanding that, you just feel anxious. That's it. It's a natural human emotion. It's like feeling angry, like feeling love. You just feel anxious, and anyone in the world can feel anxious. It's just some people go through certain life events and create these anxiety feedback loops that love to then feel anxious. When they feel anxious, you feed them and grow them until people start feeling anxious all the time. That's when the term anxiety comes into play. So I was like, wow, okay, this is working. And then at the same time, we met a neuroscientist, and I started doing weekly sessions with him. And he was amazing. He was just like so black and white. And even though like I think myself as being quite spiritual as well. You know, I've got some crystals behind me, Palo Santos over here. You know, I like that sort of stuff, right? I was getting sick of like going online trying to find cures for anxiety and being too spiritual woo-woo, like too far off the track. Like when I say that, it's like not actually giving me the facts of what I need. Because I'm like, why do I feel this way? What's causing it? How can I fix it? I could never get those answers. And it wasn't until I met this dude, he's like, look, Sam, anxiety is really, really simple. He said, you have a thought, and then with that thought, you then choose to attach a feeling to that thought. Normally it's like this, right? About that. But he said, when you are feeling anxious or you have so-called anxiety, that feeling then grows to this. And that feeling gets so big that you get these full body reactions. And he said, the key to working this out is to work out, why am I putting these huge feelings on these thoughts? Why is that happening? And he said, then you go back to your childhood and look at what's happened in your life and work out if there's any connection between the thought and feeling feedback loop. So then I went back and I was like, well, you've got to work out first, what are you fearing? Because everyone's got different things that they fear when they have so-called anxiety, right? It could be fear of, you know, social phobias, you know, not going out and being worried about being judged. It can be, you know, fears of dying, fearing that you're going to die all the time, you know, getting sick and dying. There's micro ones as well, like fear of flying, you know, a fear of judgment and body judgment as well. There's lots of fears with that. The list goes on, right? So you've got to work out, what is the base fear, what's going on? And my base fear came back to what I had when I was younger in high school, the fear of dying. Right, the fear of getting sick and dying. And when I had this full body so-called heart attack reaction, right when I had my panic attack, it's like, I thought I was having a heart attack. Then the heart attack then goes into, oh, I might have a brain tumor, you know, from that, feeds from that, it travels around because my head didn't feel right because I'm not breathing right throughout the day. I'm probably way low on oxygen, you know, it's like, But these are things that you don't look at when you're trying to self-guide yourself through everything and not getting the right help and getting the right advice on that. So we worked that out. We're like, okay, what's the fear of dying? Fear of feeling like you're sick, right? I was like, okay, well, that's the first thing. So the feeling is you're worried about dying, getting sick. And that feedback loop has been created because when you're young, your mum got diagnosed with breast cancer, and you're worried from a young child going to the doctors anyway because you're worried there's something wrong with you. So I would have learned that from somewhere. I was like, okay, cool. We've unpacked that. And he's like, every time you feel like something's coming on, you've got to realize that this is something that's been sitting deep inside you. It's within your belief system, and you believe it to be true, but it's not true. So when you work out the fundamentals of this feedback loop that creates anxiety, I started working things out for myself. And that partnered with having the L-theanine morning and night. Within 2 months flat, I stopped having panic attacks.
Wow.
And I remember the day that I stopped having my panic attacks. It was the first day, and I almost was waiting for it to happen. I was always like, why hasn't it happened for? What's going on? And it just stopped. And even from that point on, yeah, I still feel anxious here and there, like anyone else does. But I'm learning more and more about my body and more about how my mind works and everything else. I'm learning more about my childhood as well. So from that day onwards, I was like, look, Dad said I have to do something with L-theanine. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to do something with it. And it wasn't until like 8 years past that point, I was the property guy still doing my property stuff. It was 8 years past that point. So that's going back about 18 months from today's date. Mellows was then born. So my wife and I sat down. We're like, what are we going to do? It was going to be like a rescue spray first, right? Like you just having panic attacks, have the spray, it's going to calm you down and sort you out. But I was like, who wants to go against the medical industry, the billion-dollar medical industry? I'll probably get crushed in there. And it's going to be like quite expensive for people to buy in. Like not everyone can spend 40 or 50 bucks on a spray, right? I was like, I want to make it achievable for absolutely anyone to consume. And that's why I was like, well, why don't we do a drink? I thought we'd do a drink that's going to be cheap for people to buy, right? So anyone can buy it, anyone can experience it. That's going to mean then people can have more L-theanine on a more regular basis. So it's all about having it more regular as well with the L-theanine. It's good if you do dumps here and there, but it builds up in your system over time. So if you have it more often, it has a better effect as well. And I was like, let's do Mellows. So then we came back to like the brand of Mellows, like what does this represent to us? And we're like, well, Mellows is there to normalize the conversation around mental health. And it's there again, like what I said before, to show people you don't need to have a facade. Just be yourself, right? You don't need to go and suffer in silence either. Just connect with the right people. And that's what we're creating now, is this community around Mellows. And this is why we started the Mind Wellness Club, and we've launched like a Facebook group, and we've just done a YouTube channel. We're doing like weekly meditations and just getting as much resource as we can into this group so we can share it out for free to everyone as well, and just get people on the same understanding that I had to go through over all those years, but a combined package as well. And like literally, like it makes my day if I can just connect with someone who's had anxiety. If I can just help one person out, that makes my day. And literally Mellows is just a drink to start that conversation, start that journey for people.
That's awesome. I love that.
I hope that unpacked enough as well. I was like, is that everything? Maybe.
Incredible. No, that was so incredible.
I was just going to say, you've brought up community a fair bit. So when you opened your coffee shop, you said you wanted to build a community around the coffee shop, and now you're doing the same thing. Community does come into it a lot, and we've found that as well with health and fitness, trying to change people's habits. And a community does matter because people can draw on other people's experiences with health and fitness and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. It obviously seems the same with anxiety as well. So having those people around to talk about it is an awesome thing. So can you talk a little bit more about the community side of Mellow?
Yeah, 100%. So we've been in the market now for about 18 months, right? And when we started the brand, we were like, cool, let's just get it into the shops. Let's focus on wholesale. Let's build up some businesses. Let's build that so we can then spread that out to the wider public of Australia. We got to a point where we're like, well, we're in enough shops. We've got a brand here that people really like, right? They really enjoy. They love the messaging. They love the branding and stuff like that. And we were doing collaborations with some cool brands, and it was cool. We're like donating stock, doing what we can, right? But then I was like, what are we doing for our community? And I was like, we've got to have something that we can actually physically give back to our community. And it's been a really exciting process as well, because my mind just was going a million miles an hour. I literally sat in my sauna here inside with my phone and was just talking about things that I've learned and exercises that I've learned, just talked it into the mic. And then I've turned that into these like weekly guided meditations. And I was like, wow, okay, there's probably some more I can unpack here and more value I can add, right? And like, you know, it's like trying to manage social media content posting and so much stuff to do these days. So I just started talking and it wouldn't stop. And then we then launched a gratitude challenge, which has just started as well. And I was like, well, there's so many things we can do on a much more base level rather than trying to be like, let's take over Australia and help everyone out. It's like, we started in like our own backyard. And I was like, on this micro level, why not focus on a micro level first and actually show people in not only our community, but other smaller communities around Australia, we can actually make a change. So we started this gratitude challenge. We're basically under the Mind.Wellness Club on Instagram, because we couldn't get Mind Wellness Club, but Mind.Wellness Club. And under TikTok, it's just Mind Wellness Club. We're doing it where literally just take a video of yourself, share gratitude to one of your really good friends in your life. You share 3 things why you're grateful about them being in your life, why they're such an amazing human being. And then you share the most amazing experience you've had together. And you just tag in the Mind Wellness Club or Mind.Wellness Club and tag their name in, and then watch them share the love and grow this thing out. We've only just launched it, so it hasn't really taken off yet, but you know, just doing these things on a very micro level, we found that like people were bumping into, you know, we're like, hey, I saw that, that's so cool what you guys are doing. And it really showed that there's so much value in that, because I can see, you know, people here know us as who we are, not know us as Mellows, but they go, man, like you guys are going out there doing something good for an actual community, not being on the whole national scale. So I think when it comes back from outside of a brand perspective and into like a anxiety perspective, when you experience the feelings of being anxious or having so-called anxiety, you feel like you're all alone. So you can literally feel like you're the only person feeling this way. And why me? Why me? And it goes quite insular as well. So I remember meeting someone who had anxiety as well and connecting with them at the cafe all that time ago. And it made me feel like the sense of relief, like far out. You're going through the same thing as what I'm going through. It's like, I reckon it's up there as being probably some of the best medicine you can get on and beyond having, you know, L-theanine supplements or talking to, you know, a specialist that can help you with counseling and stuff. But meeting someone who's been through it is like up there as being the top 3 things that I think help people feel better who are feeling anxious or having anxiety as well. So until you have it, you can't really explain, you know, what the feelings are like, because it's like, you can't relate. You know, it's like if I talk to people that haven't had anxiety before, they're like, what do you mean? Why do you feel that way for? It's a bit random. You know, and it's like someone who's been through it, they're like, man, I can so relate to you on so many levels. So I think, yeah, having community is so important, because then you know there's other people there that are going through the same stuff you're feeling, or they've already been through it and they've found a way to find their own cure through it as well. I think it's so imperative as well, so important.
That is so cool. I think even us having the cans of Mellow on the podcast with guests, like when we have a guest, it's so nice to give them something to drink during the talk, because coming on a podcast is also pretty anxiety inducing. And straight away we have a can of Mellow together and we're talking about like our fears and anxieties in such it occurs so naturally though, because the product is like normalizing being anxious, which is incredible, because like you said, it's just an emotion, right?
It's just an emotion. And you know what? I am the most scared public speaker ever.
What?
I remember getting my phone, if it's not here, and trying to do my first story. This is going back like 3 years ago, and I was shitting my pants. Like my wife was laughing so hard on the doorstep at me trying to go, hi, Sam here. Well, and they're like, why are you a robot for? Like, this is like just be yourself. And I was still struggling with that today. Like, I'm doing some like bigger speaking now, like keynote stuff, and I'm like putting myself out there more. I want to do more and more and like go big with it. I remember doing my first one. I actually went down and saw the team at LSKD at their head office, right? Jason and the crew, and they're such nice people, like absolutely the nicest crew of people you ever meet. But I went up there and there was like about 80 people, and I was all pumped driving up there, all good. And then I got up there and I was like, holy shit, there's There's so many people and this like weird anxiety came up for me, even though they wouldn't have noticed. I played it cool and calm and got through it. I just felt like my first word was like, it was like almost restricted. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, this gives me the opportunity to influence people, help people, you know, share my story. Like, this is a good thing. But what's going through my mind is like, don't stuff it up, you know, don't sound like you don't know what you're talking about. You know, like all these things that come up from my childhood still come up for me today. So I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely understand how you can get anxiety about talking to people, whether it's on podcasts or like, you know, to large groups, because I've been there and I'm still finding my feet today. And I thought, you know what, you know, just drop the bullshit and just be real and just talk about stuff, just be yourself, you know, and that does help out. But yeah, then there's always techniques you can learn more as well.
Well, it definitely seems like you found your feet where you are now, and your story seems similar to ours. We come from the country, we've moved to the city, and moving to the city, you can definitely see there's a bit of a rat race, the hamster wheel, as you were saying. You just get caught up, and you just go, 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 go. And it seems like you've come out of it. You're awesome now. I love all your content. I love your drink.
We're in Byron Bay, see the greenery behind us.
Oh.
No cities out there. I will be in Sydney next weekend though for my birthday for a couple of nights, so that'd be nice to
We're
get
very
back in
jealous.
town.
Very jealous of that sunshine here in
Yeah.
Melbourne. But is there any, I guess, advice or things you've noticed that you were caught up in that rat race, looking back on that now, that you can sort of share with people maybe that are suffering from a bit of anxiety or don't even realize they're suffering from that, that they can sort of come out of that and, you know, be a bit happier with life?
100% though, 100%. So the first thing I'd say is, for anyone experiencing anxiety right now, you've got to realize that those feelings aren't you. They're 100% not you. They're 100% a byproduct of your current environment, both externally and internally. And that means the way you're living your life right now heavily determines how you're feeling inside. And then that heavily determines of how your basic human emotions work. So little things like, how many coffees do I drink in a day? You know, not only how long do I work for, but how do I approach work? Am I rush, do deals, like trying to like keep going faster, making more money, or doing more this, doing more that? How do I approach work? And then what sort of self-care am I doing for myself? So I know some people that will try to go and do self-care, but they're just business. They approach business so much in their mind, it takes up all their mind. So coming back to it, you've really got to be able to do a self-assessment of where am I at right now? Because I can tell you what, from my point of view, my having a lot of coffees a day definitely contributed to me having these crazy panic attacks. My becoming a new father and deciding to have a business that opened up at 5:30 in the morning and have a property business at the same time definitely contributed to me having my panic attacks. I've always eaten pretty clean, but I'd be a guy that would buy, and you could ask me and my mates this, like 300 grams of smoked salmon. I literally just eat straight smoked salmon on my break, like just like a beer, like just put back the smoked salmon followed by a squeeze of yogurt. I'm into work, you know, like I wasn't aware, like consciously aware of how I ate, like all these small things that I know now. I'm like, it all comes down to how you approach things in your life. And it's important to know that. So even if you're sitting here right now, you're full of anxiety, you're getting the fight or flight feelings, you got to realize that has been created because of what you're doing in your outer environment, and that's affecting what's happening on your inner environment. So just believe that those feelings aren't you. Yeah, they're horrible, but they're not you. The second thing is, those feelings aren't going to kill you. You're not going to die from it. So rest assured, unless you're older and you have a heart attack, right? It's very, very, very rare that you're going to die from those feelings. I've had those feelings thousands of times. So I can say that as well. I'm still here, sweet, no worries at all, right? So that's number two. Number three is don't feel like you're all alone, right? Even for me, even if anyone's got anxiety, send me an email on hello@mellows.com.au. Reach out to me through drink.mellows, whatever way you find us online. If you send a message on there, our so-called social media manager and massive team is my wife and me, right? So I see all the messages, even though it looks like we've got this big social media thing, it's my wife and me, right? That's us. So we see the messages. Anyone that reaches out with any feelings, or they feel like they don't have any guidance, you can reach out whenever you want. And this is the reason why we've done the Mind Wellness Club. We've just launched the Facebook group under Mind Wellness Club. If you don't want to connect through that, we've gone through Spotify as well with some self-help stuff. But just realize, if you're feeling alone, just reach out. That's it, because people have been through this shit before, and there are ways to get through it and manage it. And that's probably my top 3 bits of advice. And coming back to the whole looking at your environment, yeah, little things like coffee, man. It's the silent killer. Like, if you look at the past data, decaf is on the rise. And back when I had a cafe, you're a bit of a wussy if you drank decaf.
Right.
No, it's like, yeah, decaf. They're like, big dude, like, over decaf. That was like, you know, me or decaf. It's like, no, I don't drink caffeine anymore, right? And this is only for the past year. I stopped drinking caffeine, and I've actually gone Ayurvedic. So I eat more of an Ayurvedic way of living. So that consists of Indian spices, mostly vegetarian curries, a lot of ghee, which is like clarified butter, and just like, you know, warm water and lots of tea. But it was a bit, for me, I knew that was something that sort of suited me, because whenever I go to the gym, I was more drawn to doing yoga, even though I go and pump the gym and all the sort of, you know, the big muscle training and stuff like that. I used to do a lot of kickboxing growing up, and I used to love going to the gym and lifting weights. But for some reason, I wanted to get the balance of the yoga, because I think because of how I live my life, I was so busy in my mind all the time, I wanted to be able to relax and calm and stretch. So within the last year, I went back to going, okay, well, let's try the Ayurvedic way of, you know, living. And I did that. I'm doing more yoga now, but we're quite fortunate. We've got a place down here called Heat that does like heated rooms, and they do like a Pilates HIIT class, which is like harder than any gym session I've done in my life. It's full on. It's so full on, right? But I do that now as well. But even before I started training, I've dropped like 26 kgs of weight.
Wow.
I shouldn't, and there's no, you've been eating a calorie deficit, you've dropped the weight, or you're going to the gym 7 days a week, you've dropped the weight. I didn't train. I changed the way I ate, but when I ate, I sit there, I breathe in 3 times just for gratitude for my food, and I just eat, and I take time out. I normally sit outside on my little table out here in the sun, right? But I make that, like, I do that all the time. Even if I'm out and about, you know, you'll see me there, close my eyes, you know, bit of gratitude and go back. And I can't wait to go back to New Zealand and see my brother. He's got a lot of tattoos and stuff, and I sit there and pray with him, and he'll be like, what are you doing? What are you up to? You weird? What's going on? But it's like, those behaviors have come into all aspects of my life. Now I can see the clear reasons of why I created that environment for myself, even though back then I didn't see anything wrong with it. So coming back to the point of that second bit of advice, do that micro self-assessment. Look at how you structure your day, how you live your life, and just be honest with yourself. And then obviously reach out as well. We're always here as well to help.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Let's touch on the drink. So I've been supplementing L-theanine as well. But same thing, it was just a powder form, and I was having it with a hot cocoa at night to try and calm down and go to bed. And every time we try and find L-theanine in a sparkly water or some sort of, you know, cold canned drink, it had caffeine with it. And I was stoked when Matt actually found Mellow, because
I don't understand it. I'm like, why would you put caffeine with L-theanine? It's like, get the high, but not the buzz. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, the point of L-theanine is to calm down.
Yeah.
And that's our thing. It's like, we saw a gap in the market, and that gap in the market was all the drinks today are like, get more energy, have more sugar, get more energy. It's all like fabricating this so-called fake energy. And I'm like, no, don't get more energy. We've all got energy that we need to find ourselves. Get more calm. And we were like, that's why we created Mellows. It was literally our #1 goal, is to calm people's nervous systems down. And we thought, why not do that with using the best L-theanine we can find in the world, right? And we use a fermented grade L-theanine. It's the highest grade possible, which means it's the actual leaf. It's not made in a lab. It's the actual leaf, and it's fermented, so it's way more bioavailable. And we're like, we'll just keep it simple. We'll just use L-theanine. We'll make sure there's no sugar in it. We'll make sure there's absolutely no stimulants in it, so it's not going to jack people up. We'll make sure it tastes great and it's all natural. And that's literally how we came up with the recipe. So we went back and forth so many times to get it right. until we've arrived where we are now. And we're like, that's it. We know that with this drink, we can give it to anyone. Doesn't matter your age. There's no age limit on it. Doesn't matter if if you're pregnant, there's no side effects with any of it at all. Like L-theanine is so safe. They class it as food in Australia. That's how safe it is. It doesn't even go into TGA, anything like that. So I just know that like anytime someone drinks it, it's going to make them calm and hopefully have an influence on people where they say, well, cool, there's a bit of a story behind this, and then come online or reach out and, we can have more of a positive effect on them as well.
Well, it's definitely worked for us.
I appreciate it, man. As I said, I was like so baffled to see it in a podcast. I was like, because I think I went to our request and my wife was like, oh, drinks on a podcast. And I was like, what? She's like, these like random finds in the morning. You wake up, you check your Instagram. Not too early, I couldn't say that.
Yeah, of course not.
Yeah, someone here, like we had like British Vogue reach out to us over in the UK about some sort of advertising thing, and I was like, oh, man, something there, whatever.
That's
like it's like, and it's all cool and well, but I'm like, how can we have a positive influence on the communities in each of these areas? I really want to be able to give back. I really want to be able to connect people. And I want to create a space where people feel safe to share their own stories, but then almost become each other's therapists, if you want to call it as well. So ever say, oh, have you experienced this? Oh, yeah, I have. What has worked for you? Oh, I've tried this. Like, keep that going, and then get into the point of like launching events and hosting events and stuff like that as well, just to connect people,
That would be amazing. Amazing.
Color out there, so.
Yeah, well, if you're going to have one in Melbourne, we're definitely keen to.
I love this. I get to go to places and they're like, we supply some pretty cool bathhouses like that. They're like, come on down, we'll give you guys a bath soak, and we're like, sweet, this is great.
Yes.
Meeting so many great people, and we've got all these connections now. It's cool.
Awesome. Well, anything else you want to share with the community? Like, where can they get Mellow? How can they join in?
Yeah. Stuff. So if you wanted to get some hands on some Mellows, just go through to mellows.com.au. We sell it there. Be sure to check us out just through Instagram. So it's just drink.mellows. And then with the Mind Wellness Club, which we've just launched, you can see more information on Instagram at mind.wellnessclub, or through TikTok, which is just Mind Wellness Club. We've got links in there for our YouTube channel, which is just called Mind Wellness Club, and through Spotify as well, Mind Wellness Club. So with that side of the business, we are sharing weekly guided meditations. We're doing all things anti-anxiety resources, and that's where we're going to be dropping information about upcoming events and things like that as well. So be sure to check that all out. And as I said, anyone wants to reach out to me privately, feel free to do so through Instagram. I see all the messages, so I'll definitely come back and help out whatever way I can.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much. Did you say it was your birthday next week?
It is. Watch out. Oh, I won't tell you how old I am, but it's going to be fun. I'm turning 38, so I'm getting close to 40. It's a new experience, but anyway, it's all good.
I'm right up there with you.
You can relate, man. I'll send you a message after this.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for your time. This has been amazing. Thanks for
No worries at all. I really appreciate it.